I welcome you back to another important lecture. And for today, we are beginning with an entirely new chapter, and this is entitled as Reproduction, we say. For today's class, we are going to be looking on toward that what do we mean by the term reproduction, why reproduction is important, and then onward I will tell you about the difference between the diploid and the haploid cell, and we will briefly look on toward two major type of the cell divisions. Among them we have the mitosis and meiosis. We were to talk about the reproduction. So you see that at the very beginning of this course, the teachers may have given you an idea that the living organisms they have some basic characteristics in them that makes them living. And if I just recall them, so this includes the nutrition characteristics, the respiration thing, the excretion thing, the sensitivity thing, and at that points, the teacher may have told you that this reproduction, like the others, this is one of the basic characteristics of the living organism. And by this ability, what the living organisms they would do, that they would produce the new offsprings, and these new offsprings they would be of their own kind. And what do we mean by this is, like, if I am a human being as of now, so I would produce the offsprings that would be the humans. And the same goes for the cats and the dogs, that whenever they would be going into the reproduction, so they would make the like offsprings as of them. Like the dogs would make the dogs, the cats would make the cats. So this is the reproduction with us. So here the slight situation is that why we living organisms we need to reproduce. So the reason is very simple, that we would like to avoid the extinction of some specific species. Like you see, every living organisms, their life is cyclic. They are born, then they grow, they become adult, and then ultimately at one point they die. And during their life, if they are not making the new offsprings of their own kind, so the species of those organisms they would extinct from the planet Earth, which is something we don't want. The other reason for us to be reproducing is that we would want to maintain the biodiversity in our environment. And by the word biodiversity, what I mean is that if I have got some area, and in that area, if I have got more number of the offsprings, if I have got more number of the habitats of the living organisms, and if I have got more of the genes of the living organism, so that particular thing would be referred to as being more biodiverse. So you see that if the living organisms they were not reproducing and they were dying, so ultimately they would extinct, and this would lower the biodiversity, which is something that I don't want. And the third point for us is that we need to be reproducing is that we would like to be maintaining the population size. Now, moving onward, here we have got the types of the reproduction to be discussing. And fundamentally, the reproduction would fall into two major categories, we say. And among the two major categories that we have got with us, so one of that is the sexual reproduction. And the other type of the reproduction that we have with us, so this is the asexual reproduction with us. No matter the reproduction is sexual or the reproduction is asexual, the parent would be making the new individuals, they would be making the new offsprings. Now, the thing is that what role do the parents contribute in the reproduction? So, as I've said, in the reproduction, we have the parents, and these parents they are making the offsprings. So, the role of the parent is that these parents, as we people have got our parents, each of the living organisms have their parents. So, what the parents they do is that they would transfer the genetic material to their respective offsprings, and these offsprings who have obtained the genetic material from their parent, so they would use his genetic material and the genetic information to be making their characteristics. Like if there was something and it were to reproduce to be making an offsprings, So the offspring would require to be developing the hair and the fingernails and the internal organ and the muscles and all the outer feature that it possesses. So all of these they require the genetic material because the genetic material which we people have inherited from the parents. So this is utilized in our body to make the proteins, and those proteins at the end they would be developing the characteristics in us. Moving onward, before we discuss the sexual and the asexual reproduction in detail, it is very important for all of you to be very much clear about the type of the cells that we have. Like you should be knowing that what the diploid and the haploid cells are, and your idea of the two type of the cell divisions, that is mitosis and the meiosis, should be very much clear. So you see that in our body, like the multicellular organisms that I am talking about, so they have two distinct type of the cells in them. One of the cells that they have in their body, they are the diploid cells. And the other cells that we have got in us, so they are the haploid cells with us. Whenever I am regarding some cell as a diploid cell, so this simply means that it would have two set of the chromosomes in our normal cells, and two set of the chromosomes mean that if I were to talk for a human being, so in our normal cells that we have in the body, so half of the chromosomes, like in the human's case, 23 has come from the mother and 23 has come from the father. So that had made a cell, and that cell is a diploid cell. Now, likewise, if I were to be telling you about the haploid cells, so these haploid cells they have in them one set of the chromosomes, and in the case of the human beings, that would be 23 chromosomes. Now, if I just compare this haploid cell, which I have drawn for you, with this diploid cell, so you see that here I had got total of 4 chromosomes. Like you just feel like these 4 chromosomes, they are representative of 46 chromosomes that we human have got in our body. And when the cells are becoming the haploid cell, as in case of the sperm cell and the egg cell, so the genetic material is getting reduced to the half. Like here we had the 4 chromosomes representative of 46, and here I have shown you 2 chromosomes which would be representative of 23 chromosomes with us. Now, moving onward, here you see, as I've said, that we must be very much clear about that how many types of the cell divisions we have in us, because these cell divisions they are directly associated with the sexual and the asexual reproduction. By the cell division in biology, what we mean is that the number of the cells would be increasing. And in that regard, the one type of the cell division that we have with us, this is entitled as mitosis, and the other type of the cell division that we have got in us, so this is meiosis with us. Now, if you were to see this diagram, here you see I have got one parent cell, and this one parent cell, when this is compelled to divide, and as a result, when this would be making two daughter cells, such that the number of the chromosomes of these two daughter cells, this is same as a parent cell. So such type of the cell division would be referred to as mitosis. And when I am talking about the meiosis, so in the meiosis what we see is that at the top we have the parent cell, and this parent cell is dividing and is making total of 4 cells with us, and these 4 cells they are formed as if they would have half the number of chromosome compared to the parent cell. So that is the reason that in meiosis, since the parent cell divides to form total of 4 daughter cells, so that is why we call meiosis also as the reduction division. The idea of the mitosis and meiosis is important because you will see that whenever the reproduction happening is asexual reproduction, so the type of the cell division followed would be mitosis, and whenever any of the living organism is going into the sexual reproduction, so the type of the cell division involved would be the meiosis with us. So now let me quickly take you to be understanding the fundamental differences that we have got in between the sexual and the asexual reproduction I am talking about. So, whenever the reproduction is asexual, we would only require one parent. But whenever the sexual reproduction is happening, as if I talk about myself or yourself, we are humans and we are the product of sexual reproduction. And in our body, the genetic contribution is half from the mother and half from the father. So the sexual reproduction would be involving total of two parents. And in the asexual reproduction, no gametes are produced, and the gametes basically are the specialized cells that have half the genetic information compared to the parent cell, and the gametes are the haploid cells. So in the asexual reproduction, no gametes or the haploid cells are produced, but whenever the sexual reproduction is happening, so here there would be the involvement of the gamete cells, which are the haploid cells. Why? Because their nucleus have half the genetic information. So if I talk about us, the human beings, so the gametes is the sperm cell and the egg cell. So the sperm cell has half the genetic information coming from the male parent, and the egg cell has got half the genetic information coming from the female parent. So when both of these gametes they would fuse during the time of fertilization, we would retain the number of the chromosomes in the resulting zygote that we have got. And as I have mentioned earlier, whenever the reproduction is asexual, so mitosis would be involved, but whenever the reproduction would be sexual, so here the type of the cell division involved would be the meiosis with us. In the asexual reproduction, the offspring would be produced and they would be the exact clones or they would be identical to the parents. And in sexual reproduction, the offsprings that are being produced, so they are not identical to the parents, but rather than they have got some differences or they have got some variations in their genes and as well as in their outer observable features that we refer to as the phenotypes. Now, if we were to talk about that what follows the asexual reproduction, so it would be followed by the plants and the simple animals and the microorganisms, and this asexual reproduction does not happen in more complex animals like us. And when we talk about the sexual reproduction, so this would be occurring in all the plants and the animal species. Whenever the reproduction is asexual, so the situation is that we would lead toward the production of very large number of the offsprings. But for the sexual reproduction, since there is an obligation of the two parents, so this would produce the offsprings, but the number of the offspring produced would be less rapid as compared to the asexual reproduction that we have got. So I hope now the meaning of the term reproduction, the diploid and the haploid cell, and the two major type of the cell divisions, which is mitosis and the meiosis, will make sense to all of you. So see you for the next class.